Hey, it's Michael Kosta. This is the Tennis Anyone podcast. How we doing? Tuesday, August 27th. Hot. I was at the U.S. Open yesterday. I'll get into it. Special time of year here in New York City. If you ever wanted to be stranded in the middle of Queens with New York Police Department limousine personnel yelling at you, going to the U.S. Open is like going to Las Vegas. You are excited on the way there. You have fun. You exhaust yourself. You get sunburn. You don't really eat. You're uncomfortable. And then you can't figure out how to get home. I guess Vegas you can get home, but everyone's grumpy as shit on the way home from Vegas. And on the way home, U.S. Open, it's well documented in this podcast that getting home from the U.S. Open, if you don't live in the heart of Queens, if you don't live in the heart of Manhattan, if you live in Manhattan, you just take the 7. That is the way to do it. Strongly recommend just taking the 7. Thank you to Chicago. It was amazing to be there for the Democratic National Convention, the Daily Show. I hosted Monday. It was gangbusters. The crowd was insane. There was University of Illinois supporters there. There was Tennis Anyone supporters there. There was stand-up comedy supporters there. We hosted the show at the Athenaeum Theater, and we had a great time. I biked, I walked, I swam in Lake Michigan. I did Orange Theory. Chicago is an excellent, excellent city. It was fun to engage with Democratic National Convention supporters. Let me switch this over to ESPN because Tennis Channel Live or whatever the hell it's called is over. You know, Steve Weissman and Prakash, they are in, I don't want First Take. I just want the U.S. Open. They're in L.A. Isn't that crazy? First Take goes to noon. Oh, God, just turn it off, Michael. So, yeah, Tennis Channel does not have rights to the U.S. Open, and they just lost the rights to the French Open. So that's very interesting, which means they save money, but they still have a lot of rights to ATP 1000s, which is great. But let's be honest. The general public tunes in for the Grand Slams. So John Wertheim is in New York. He's at the Open, but then he's zooming in to Steve Weissman and Prakash Armitage and Chanda Rubin. And like this morning, Wertheim is just standing behind a brick wall on the grounds of the U.S. Open. And I know what you're thinking, like, oh, he is probably in the middle of interview. No, they don't have a location. Tennis Channel doesn't have a location. So you kind of just find a place. I guess he's zooming with his phone. I don't know. I'm sure he has a media credential, but it's a little crazy when you're a broadcasting network who doesn't have rights to the event. So I went there Friday with Tennis Channel, and we did a watered down version of Warm and Fuzzy, but they don't have the rights to the U.S. Open, so the players aren't required to speak to us. So it's kind of this, hey, can you do us a favor and come talk to Kosta and Warm and Fuzzy? And thankfully, we got some great tennis players, but it's tricky because the Tennis Channel coordinator is in the players' lounge or however they do it and is saying, hey, can you go walk over to the other side of the grounds and talk to Michael Kosta? And we had Jasmine Paolini, we had Mira Andreeva, we had Ben Shelton, we had Sebastian Korda, we had some more, and it's great, and I'm thankful for that, but it makes it tough, and this is why live sport, the rights is everything. If Tennis Channel had the rights to the U.S. Open, we would have had 100 people. We would have had every single athlete because, one, they're required to, and you would take it. So, thank you to Chicago. Unrelated. I'm bouncing back and forth. But 7 years prior, The Daily Show Undesked with Trevor Noah performed at the exact same theater. And I was a brand new correspondent. It was my first ever trip with The Daily Show. We flew to Chicago. They kept telling me, show up to the theater, be around. I was around for 4 straight days. Nobody used me. I even shot a piece about Chicago and the protection of Lake Michigan, and they didn't even air it that week. They aired it when we got back to New York. So that's how kind of high in the totem pole I was then. This time around, I wouldn't say I'm the highest on the totem pole, but I would say I'm getting higher. This time around, they had me host Monday, which was a dream. It was so much fun. Hosting the first day is hard. Things are not figured out. I mean, The Daily Show famously can adjust to anything and pivot to anything, but we are a well-oiled machine. But the machine moved to Chicago. There was a little bit of, I don't think we were delayed more than 10, 15 minutes that Monday, but, it's kind of like as an athlete, you play yourself into the tournament, and it certainly is true after I hosted Monday. By the way, the show was great. Governor Gretchen Whitmer was my guest, who completely dodged my question about what are you doing as the governor to protect the Great Lakes. And she also dodged another question. Anyways, I support Governor Whitmer. I was hoping to have a little bit more of a real discussion, because I'm convinced that Donald Trump is going to figure it out. I'm convinced he's a competitor, and he will pivot and stop complaining and bitching about Kamala Harris. I'm convinced he plays dirty. So I'm really hoping that the Democratic Party is planning for a disaster. I'm hoping that the same Democratic Party that appears to be well organized now somehow, I'm hoping, like Rafael Nadal, they are preparing to be caught off guard. They are preparing to be unprepared. And when I asked Governor Whitmer that, you can see it on YouTube, she actually reflected back to me, well, what do you think, Michael? And I'm like, me? I'm a fucking comedian. You're the governor of Michigan, who very clearly has aspirations above that. So I'm just hoping, Governor Whitmer, and by the way, difficult job. Probably didn't know that question was coming. That's hard. Really support her. Loved her book. But I just am so worried that the Dems are so happy with their surge in their polls and their new presidential candidate and hope and change and joy, that they're not going, hey, we're playing Novak Djokovic here. We're up 2-0, and he actually does better when his back is up against the wall. And I wouldn't even say the Dems are up 2-0. I would say the Dems won the first set in a very close match, and that might be overstating it. Statistically, it's a tie within the margin of polling error. So, anyways, I was much like playing yourself into a tournament after that Monday hosting. I thought, now I really get the rhythm of this theater. Now I really get the sound, how it echoes. Now I understand the rhythm of the day. Things are a little bit, we were doing an hour earlier because it's Central Time. That means you're waking up earlier. That means the morning meeting's earlier. At the morning meeting, I got lost getting to the morning meeting. So it's like everything just needed, you need to get in your rhythm. And the challenge of hosting one day is you blink and it's over. It's like those Olympic swimmers who swim in the semifinal heat, but they don't swim in the final heat, and they still get a gold medal. But they probably swim in the semifinal meet, and they probably do a good job, but they don't set a world record, and they think, you know what, I really want to swim in the finals. I really want to show these motherfuckers what I got. There was a part of me, remember growing up in Ann Arbor, there was this girl who won a gold medal that way. She was older than us, and she swam in the quarterfinals, or she swam in even the Olympic trials, but she didn't actually swim in the finals. And she showed up with her gold medal back in Ann Arbor, and a lot of us were like, we don't even know who you are. What do you mean you have a gold medal? Now, as an adult, as someone who's attempted things and failed and realize what a high level she was. 100% she deserved a gold medal. And Dickie, 9-year-old us, who was like, why do you have a gold medal? But we all have different roles to play, don't we? My point in all of this is that Monday, after hosting The Daily Show, I had so much fun, and you just want to get out there and do it again. You know what I mean? So that's that. Politically, I posted yesterday, I really made a lot of fun of the people at the Democratic National Convention. I called them dorks. Keep in mind, I was at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, and we decided to leave because former President Trump was shot that same day. And when he was laying on the ground bleeding, was he shot by a bullet? Was it a teleprompter? We still don't have any information on that. And his ear was bloody. And I don't want to get all conspiratorial, but I find it strange that we don't know a lot about that actual moment. What was I saying? Sorry, my conspiracy brain took over. So I'm speaking about the Democratic National Convention because I was there and I was in it, and I would have been in the Republican there, but we had to fly home because when President Trump was quote unquote shot, teleprompter glass shot, whatever you want to say, a lot of his supporters were like flicking off the camera saying, fuck you, media, you did this, media, the media is to blame. And we were sitting there as media light, as I like to call it. The Daily Show is the Canada version of journalism if America is a real journalist. Does that track? We're not journalists. We're comedians, but we cover serious stuff. So we were like, do we want to go make fun of Republicans right now and their Lord and Savior, their king, their holy almighty Donald Trump was just almost killed? No. So I do have the unique perspective as an American who has watched both Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. And this is what I can wholeheartedly tell you. And try to remove judgment from what I'm about to say. The Republicans sell you rage and fear. The Democrats sell you joy and hope. And they're both kind of bullshit, okay? Living your life in rage and fear is not a fun way to live. It's not a happy life to have. It's not a positive influence on people. The world isn't all just rage and fear. And yet also living a life of joy and hope isn't reality. It isn't, it's rose tinted glasses. It's also bullshit. It's not, it's participation trophy. There are winners and losers, and there are people who cheat, and there are negative things. And the fact that we're born into North America 100% is a privilege. And there are people who are born in Guatemala and Colombia and Venezuela, and they just got a shitty hand immediately, or the ones that are trying to come up to this country. There's a crazy article in The Atlantic about, is it the Darien Gap? About the Central Americans crossing the gap to get up to just Mexico, just to get to fucking Mexico. And the plight and the death and the moms being separated from their kids and crossing the rivers, and it's crazy. And every American should read it, Canadian too, and just go, holy shit, I was just born here. I don't even have any idea that this is such a wonderful life because I was just born here. Mom and dad had sex, most likely in North America, but I'll tell you how sex works. You can have sex anywhere, and then the baby can be born somewhere different. You don't have to give birth where you had sex. Ooh, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't it be hilarious if humans, much like salmon, had to give birth exactly where they conceived? You'd have... This is a fun stand-up bit. You'd have moms giving birth like underneath buffet tables at weddings and really gross, disgusting alleyways. and hotel rooms. You know, oh, you're checking in? Well, we had sex here 9 months ago, so we have room 204, please. That's exactly where we have to give birth. Ferris wheels, airplanes seems crazy. Couches, friends' houses with your cat sitting. These are just some that are coming to my mind. Under aquariums. Sorry, my brain is wherever. Anyways, so, yeah, fun chat with Governor Whitmer. Didn't really get into anything substantial, but everyone who loves her. And I can tell you it's more enjoyable to watch the Democratic National Convention. It's less fear. It's less rage. It's more hope. It's more joy, a lot more smiling. Think about Kamala Harris's speech versus Trump's speech. Rambling, sadness. My life almost was over. You know, it was crazy circumstances. But in general, those are the two parties. And here's what my final thought will be on that. I don't think any American is just rage and fear and just hope and joy. We're all somewhere in the middle, and we lean one way or the other. And I got to say, I lean closer to joy and hope. But you got to also have rage and fear. And I would encourage anybody who leans towards rage and fear to also carry joy and hope. And I think Kamala Harris did a really nice job, and the Dems did a nice job of offering an escape route to any Republican who is done with the Trump of fear and rage. When you go hiking, did the Appalachian Trail last year, there's signs up that say, if you encounter a bear, there's a bunch of things you can do, and you don't charge the bear, and you're supposed to kind of, there's different things for different types of bears. In general, the black bear does not want to fuck with humans. But the one I love, and I think about this all the time in my interpersonal relations, is it says, give the bear an escape route. Don't block the path. Make it clear that the bear has an easy way out, right? And I thought it was brilliant how the Dems and Kamala said to Republicans, address them. Not even like, hey, you can come over here, but it just said, we're about America and we're about joy. And if you're a Republican who has burrowed deep into the Trump, or you're a Republican because you're a Republican, but you don't really support Trump, it was kind of a call to them saying, you can come over this way. You can come here. We're giving you a safe escape route, and no one's going to judge you or be mad at you. When you encounter a bear on the trail and it chooses to take that escape route that you offered it, we're not going to be mad at you, bear. No one's going to call you a bear pussy because you didn't rip my face off. Take it. Take the path. Okay, U.S. Open. How do we get on bears in the Appalachian Trail? First few thoughts. I walked in. I had a backpack. The woman said, show me what's inside your backpack. Classic New York. Somehow I just have been commanded to do something that I didn't want to do, but I understand security. So I show her everything in there. It's all good. Then she says, you got to dump out your water. Okay, by the way, it's like 90 degrees, scorching sun. So I say, okay, I'll dump out my water. So as I'm walking out, another woman says, you don't have to dump out your water. So then another woman came over in a red shirt. The other ones were in blue. And she said, you have to just dump out the water, but you can keep the ice. And then I looked at all three of them and I said, you're telling me to dump everything out. You're telling me to just dump the water out. You're telling me I can keep everything. And if you've ever been to any event in New York, this is what it's like. Eventually, some guy came over with a walkie-talkie and he said, you just have to dump out the water, not the ice. So then I went over to a tree and I dumped out water and I kept the ice and I went through security. Isn't that hilarious? I mean, so if you want to sneak something in, just put it in ice. Recreational drugs, bombs. I mean, it's so stupid. The whole thing is so stupid. Also, the whole reason I have water is because it's so hot and there's no shade, so I'm going to faint. So would you rather deal with me bringing water in, or would you rather deal with an emergency situation where a human faints? Silly, silly, silly. Then I get to Arthur Ashe Stadium. Thank you, New Balance, for the tickets. Always supportive, wonderful, wonderful brand who is very much supporting tennis, which I love. And this is good news for tennis fans. They're now allowing you to seat after games, not just changeovers. This is a big, big, big difference, and it's a big help. Previously, if you had to go out to the restroom or get food after a set break, you'd come back, you'd have to wait till it was 3-0 or 2-1. Now it's just after one, you can take a seat. Now, who does this annoy? The players. It was interesting. I know the Australian Open did this. This is a huge benefit, advantage, change for the live tennis experience. It was really stupid that tennis wasn't letting its fans do this. You wait a long time to go watch the match that you paid money for. And the players kind of complain, but they have to fucking deal with it. Welcome to Tennis 2.0. Also, lose the let. Lose the fucking let. It slows everything down. We do not need a let serve is in play, period. That's it. That's it. The let play is in. It's in. Half the time, both players can't even hear the let. It just goes beep, and then they redo the serve. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. These matches are 5 sets. If the player chooses to hit the net, and it is up to the player, if they're tired, they get more let serves. That should be the punishment if it pops up. That's just, it's such a no-brainer. So good job, tennis. You made the adjustment. Players can now, spectators can now enter the court after the game. I think it's a good compromise as opposed to just making it free-for-all, because if it's free-for-all, it would be too much. Also, New Yorkers, you got to move your big fat ass fast. Fast. I saw an argument with an usher and a spectator. I love that. Classic New York. You would never see that at Wimbledon. The usher told the guy, you can't come in yet. The guy said, I know the rules. The usher then said sarcastically, oh, great. Can you explain the rules to me? The guy said, I know the rules. I don't have to explain it to you. Now they're fighting. The usher and the spectator are arguing. The spectator turns to me and says, can you believe this guy? I just put on my sunglasses like I'm deaf, as if that's ever solved the problem. But it's mayhem, the U.S. Open. It's fun. The tennis is amazing. It was so effing hot. But, you know, all of your senses will be activated. A few things. Ben Shelton, Dominic Thiem was at that match. I can't see anything but sadness with the Dominic Thiem. He looks the same. He mentally seems toast. His game is different. He's still standing so far back on the serve. This is a guy who won the tournament 4 years ago, and we've never really heard from him ever again. He had so many people in his box, a coach and Fizzy. I don't know what the hell they are. So many people in his box. Ben Shelton's serve is an absolute whiplash. It reminds me of fully cooked spaghetti, and you just do like the little up down thing, and just watching it go like that. His serve is insane. It's so fun to see the torque, the movement, the loose arm. He's, in my opinion, there's a small hitch at the beginning of his serve, but the actual action of it is insane. It's insane. And Thiem is standing so far back, victim to the kick serve, victim to the slice. Dominic Thiem to me is a sad story. A Tennis Anyone fan sent me this article on Dominic Thiem in The Athletic. Dominic Thiem interview, how a U.S. Open title became the start of a tennis ending. And I meant to read this for you guys. I already felt that before the match something was not right, Thiem tells The Athletic in a video from his home in Austria. I wasn't getting into the zone or the flow, and that's how the first 2 sets went. They were really too tense, too nervous. Zverev was playing really well. The pressure was so high. I was thinking back to my previous finals. Maybe it's less pressure to face the greatest players of all time because the U.S. Open I had to win, and that was really tough. Remember when he won that? It was the COVID year. And Sasha Zverev was up 2-0 in the U.S. Open final, and no fans. And Dominic Thiem, he had previously played Nadal in the Grand Slam. He lost 2 French Open finals to Nadal, 1 Australian to Djokovic, along with Murray and Sam. No players suffered. Yeah, so he had lost to Nadal and Djokovic in Grand Slam finals. So he finally won one against Sasha Zverev, and it really just seemed like since then he's fallen off. I couldn't watch that match. Yesterday's match, it just seemed like a sad story. And I know he's made millions, and he has a Grand Slam, but the way it all happened is wild to me. Ben Shelton, I interviewed him for the Tennis Channel. He immediately remembered me. He's incredibly personable. He said, I remember you. And he said, last time we spoke, I didn't know anything. He walked in. He had that same energy, the same smile. It was a little more controlled. He had a Rolex on his watch. He had a Rolex on his wrist at this point. I pointed that out. He's already got $2.5 million prize money, Ben Shelton. I think that's right. So his watch was probably $40,000, $35,000. He talked about the first time we spoke, it was a lot of external motivation. It was other people trying to motivate him, but now he had a lot of internal motivation. He's 13 in the world. So it's a good kid. He probably voted for Donald Trump. That would be my guess, these Floridians. I have no clue. I'm just totally projecting. But he is a wonderful personality for the game. He's being less obnoxious on the court and using some of that energy, I think, intelligently. And you see his dad in the stands, very stoic, very composed. I'm sure that's to counter the way Ben is. Ben is really fun to watch. He hit some forehands that I was like, Michael, this is why you never played this tournament. You just never had, 1, the ability to hit a forehand like that, but 2, just for like fun, he would just hit it as hard as he could. That's what it seems like. So he's having fun out there, incredible personality and game, and he could lose second round and he could win the thing. Remember last year when he played Djokovic in the semi? Was that it? Was that when Djokovic did the violin or something, whatever it was great. So really, really fun to chat with him. What other notes did I write down? Who won Schwartzman Monfils? I got to see this because I left this after the first set. Monfils versus Schwartzman. Who won? Monfils defeats Schwartzman. Is that right? Reddit tennis? Wait a sec. Retiring Diego Schwartzman, emotional U.S. Open send-off. Wow. So let's see what happened. Yeah, Monfils won. Wow. Good effort, dude. Round of 28, outdoor hard. 6-7, 6-2, 6-2, 6-1. Interesting. I really love Diego Schwartzman. I really love Gael Monfils. I think Gael Monfils, by the way, is 6'4", and when you look at him on the court, he looks like a giant. And I was watching that, and I was going, that's how tall I am. Is that how I look? I wish I looked like Gael Monfils on court. But Monfils is a 2-time U.S. Open semifinalist, 2016 and maybe 2008. He's played 16 or 17 times. Both of them had played the U.S. Open that many times. That can't be right. It's definitely right for Gael Monfils. It's just crazy to think you make a semi and then 8 years later you make a semi again. I mean, that is just incredible skill and ability. And his forehand is atrociously big. When you watch Gael Monfils, you kind of forget, because of his personality and his fun shots, his forehand is atrociously big. His serve I can't stand. I hate the way his footwork works. I hate how he's not always up against the line. But his forehand is wild to see. And he gets it so high, so loopy. It has great heaviness when it lands, and I love watching Jago Schwartzman because you're just watching someone who has gotten every single ounce of ability out of himself. And I had to leave after the first set and go pick up the kids. Can you believe that? Every time I go to the U.S. Open, I have to fucking leave early to go be a dad. Ugh. And then I watched Coco. And Coco is great outfit, New Balance, baby blue, fun. She looks like a defending champion. You know, it's a silly thing to say, but not really. Tennis is a fashion sport. Ben Shelton's outfit, what? Emma Navarro's outfit, awesome. Women just feel like they execute the outfit better so often. I think Novak last night wearing a little bit of a baby blue also. Looks really good, looks really fit. But in general with the men, it's like the top player, the second to top player. I'm really missing some of the like really kick-ass fashion. I love that. We missed that about Serena for sure, Venus, Roger, oh man. But yeah, I just really love, and Nadal always had a cool outfit. It's just, we are missing a je ne sais quoi fashion in the U.S. Open this year, from what I can see. Tonight, Carlos Alcaraz plays, I believe. But as these younger players win more and their teams develop and their contracts are bigger, New Balance and Fila, you don't see a lot of Nike, maybe, they will start hiring bigger and more expensive designers, and that's when this will change. But yeah, tennis, great fashion opportunity. Coco, I said to anyone that would listen yesterday, she's so good that when she's bad, she still beats you 2-1. Her opponent seemed pretty good to me. Coco seemed messy. It seemed terrible. Her forehand is a weirdest grip, and it's so loopy, and she's always on her back foot. But then you see she wins 2-1. So she's, I'm being both complimentary and critical. She's so athletic, competitive, mentally sound that she can be sloppy and win 2-1. But then I see the sloppiness and I go, how the hell does she expect to get to the quarterfinals? But it's not about getting to the quarterfinals in the first round. It's about getting to the second round. And she got to the second round. And she's an enormous star here. She did not play at night. From what I read, she wanted to play during the day. She kind of wanted to sneak attack, not have all the pressure of defending champ at night, blah, blah, blah. I think that's really smart. That just shows kind of how intelligent she is. I root for her, but man, can she frustrate me with the forehand. And I don't know. At this point, do you make changes because you won a Grand Slam? Yeah, you should and do, and we'll see how this goes for her. But I can't anticipate it going very far for Coco Gauff. I would love to be wrong. What else did I write down, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, Jannik Sinner, right? Jesus Christ. It's hard to know what's going on here. Jannik Sinner has known for months that he had failed 2 doping tests. And Jannik Sinner is highly respected and liked as a player. He has been found not at fault, as if there was some what's the word I'm looking for? Contamination in something he took. He twice tested positive for the banned substance clostebol, which clostebol was approved as banned in 2020. It's an anabolic steroid. Clostebol is an anabolic androgenic steroid derivative from testosterone. In humans, among the legitimate therapeutic indications of anabolic steroids, clobesterol acetate is approved for topical use in dermatological preparations. Does this mean anything to you? It's been used in cattle to improve the animal growth. Oh, great. Which means we eat that. Due to its anabolic properties, the International Olympic Committee in the past and today, the world have concluded clostebol and other in the yearly prohibited substances. It's based on the text. Okay, whatever. In last year's capabilities advances and levels have led to moderate increase in clostebol detection worldwide, especially in Italy, where the use of cream containing acetate and abrasions and erosion, injuries and wounds, which are due to the inability to bed. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, none of that information was made public until this week when the International Tennis Integrity Agency and Sinner's team revealed jointly that the 23-year-old had been found to bear no fault or negligence for the presence of clostebol in 2 of his anti-doping test samples taken in March. It is significant enough that the number one men's tennis player had twice tested positive for a banned substance, but it is even more remarkable situation due to the silence that had led up to the revelation. In Sinner's case, he was notified for his first positive test on April 4th, 4 days after he won the Miami Open. Sinner immediately filed an urgent application to lift the provisional suspension, and his request to do so was granted a day later, meaning the ban was not publicly announced. Sinner received notification of the second positive test on April 17th, and the immediate provisional suspension was lifted on April 20th, with this bearing occurring at the beginning of the busiest period of the season. Sinner was extremely fortunate that neither of those short-lived provisional bans fell on a tournament week. So he was given a provisional ban, but he wasn't playing those weeks. A notable attempt to overturn original came when yesterday of Ukraine was provisionally suspended. I mean, it's just, I don't know what's going on. But with Sinner being permitted to compete, 2 separate storylines have been playing over the past 5 months. On one hand, Sinner had a breakout season. At the same time, the case has continued to progress in private, and it was intersected with numerous significant events during his run to the French Open semifinal. For example, Sinner's defense team responded to the ITIA's official notice of adverse analytical findings, and he won his 3rd-round match against Kotov a day after he was formally charged with an anti-doping rule violation. Sinner's independent tribunal was held the day after his first-round win at the lack of transparency. Darren Cahill, Sinner's coach, said in an interview with ESPN that Sinner had been worn down by the case. Darren Cahill, sound familiar? He was also the coach of Simona Halep. I know he's friendly. I know he's Australian. I know we like his accent. I know he seems brilliant. But I was immediately intrigued that Darren Cahill, the coach who can solve any problem, was attached to Jannik Sinner and Simona Halep. And then he said, I just want to stress he's maybe the most professional young man I've ever had a chance to work with. Sound familiar? That's what he said about Simona Halep. It should also be noted Simona Halep has been found, everything's been overturned. It just starts to smell fishy. He would never, ever intentionally do anything, and he's in a situation that's incredibly unfortunate, said Darren Cahill, who's on the payroll of Jannik Sinner. That should always be in the fucking articles. I think what's hard about this is that Sinner is so respected and liked, but it doesn't surprise me. I don't know what's going on. It's shady at best. You failed 2 drug tests. So even if he's cleared, which he has been, you are saying that was in his blood. So he did have an anabolic steroid in his blood during that time. If you're saying something was contaminated that he took, okay, fine, but he still had an advantage during those matches. I don't like it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like this one bit. I don't like that Darren Cahill is attached to Jannik Sinner and Simona Halep. I don't like that it's secret what happened. I don't like that the players didn't know. This is the world number 1. I don't like it at all. It's ugly. I don't like it. Michael Kosta, Tennis Anyone podcast, doesn't like it. And yeah, I have seen him compete and thought, how does someone have this much energy? I've watched Rafael Nadal play tennis, and I said, I think he's on drugs because he looks so wired. I don't know. I don't understand it, but I don't like it. You hear me? And bullshit that if Darren Cahill is quoted in an article, the article needs to say, this is the coach and he's currently on payroll for this person. So, of course, he's defending him. If I paid someone $1 million, $2 million a year to coach me, and then I had like a drug situation that was up for interpretation, I better fucking hope that my coach comes out swinging in my defense. I don't like it one bit. I don't work for tennis. I don't work for the ATP. I don't work for the ITIA. I don't work for the US Open. I sometimes work for the Tennis Channel, but I don't like it. And a lot of the reason people enjoy this pod is that I was the only one that came out against Justin Gimbelstop. I'm the only one in the whole tennis world that said this is fucking bullshit that this guy did what he did and is still working in tennis, which he's not now. And every time I turn around a dark alley, I expect Justin to be there. But because it's so incestual, this sport, I don't like it. And I'm allowed to say that. It seems fishy, and it really seems fishy that Darren Cahill's part of it too. Let's leave it there. I'm Michael Kosta. This is the Tennis Anyone podcast. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the U.S. Open. Please leave a rating and review on this Tennis Anyone podcast. Please come see me next month in Seattle. We added a show in Seattle. That's how well we're selling. And Portland, September 13th, 14th. I'm in Hawaii, October 11th and 12th. I'm in D.C. in November. I'm in Austin, Texas in December. There's one other one in December. Was one other one in December? Let's just look. Let's go right now to michaelkosta.com. Okay. And I'll tell you who's not going to show up, Darren Cahill. Oh, yeah. December 20th. Chicago. December 21st, Minneapolis. Seattle, Portland, Honolulu, Washington, D.C., Austin, Texas, Chicago, Minneapolis. Love you guys. Game, set, match. Kosta.